expect after you buy an RV. This video is all about the, oh my gosh, I bought an RV, now what? I kind of like to think of it as like, you know those books that they sell where it's like, what to expect when you're expecting, right? It's like 9 months of, you know, pregnancy and then you have the baby. Well, to me, buying a van is a little like that. You do all this research, you're so excited, you know, you focus on like maybe the layout, the type of van, all of this stuff that you really, you know, what you want, what works best for your life. But then you buy the RV or you buy the van and then all of a sudden, well, in our experience, things happen or you don't even know how to use it. The now what is, it's time for a shakedown trip. Today, we are gonna teach you guys and show you guys what we wish we would have done when we bought our first RV and our second RV, and what we're gonna do when we buy our third RV.
The first thing I would do for a successful shakedown trip is plan a trip with a short distance. You definitely don't want to be heading out on some epic adventure, you know, across the world, and you've never even spent a night in it.
Yeah, don't be like us. Do you guys remember us going to Texas? In our van? And our first night we had major issues. Yeah. Okay.
All right, so this little device.
Stupid device.
Frustrating device. So
as soon as he removed this, the van went, meow, and it was working. It's 4:30 at this point in the morning. We should have planned a much smaller trip at the beginning.
So on those first few nights, you definitely need to be staying at a campground that has like full service with hookups and wastewater, everything, because you're going to need to be able to test all of your systems. And then they also should have some resources there where, you know, if you need something, they might have like a little convenience store or something like that so that you could find some of those, you know, basic things that you might have forgotten. And speaking of that, we need to buy some more toilet drop-ins. So do you guys have any recommendations? We've tried almost all of these brands. So we've tried this one, and we've tried this one, this one, this one, and there's even a couple of brands that aren't here that we've tried.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know, which one's the best? Okay, so we decided to go with these for the cassette toilet, and this for the gray water tank.
I think I need this. Have you guys ever seen this? I've never seen this. It's a hammock with a shade. I need this. Who's with me? Thumbs up in the comments if you think I need to come back here and find this.
So one of the first things that you need to do is build a checklist. And the best place to start is actually all of the manuals and paperwork that they give you when you buy your van. This huge stack of stuff is all of the manuals from each of the components, you know, whether it's the fan, whether the pump, you name it, everything is in here, including the book from Ram. So you need to go through all of this stuff, build a checklist of all the components that you want to check out, and make sure that, you know, you test them out, you understand how they work, and you keep this with you so that when you have a problem, you can always reference it. It's a little warm today and we need some airflow in here, so I'm going to open the door. Hopefully we don't have too much background noise. Let's get started with that checklist and I'll show you where some stuff is at. The first thing that you want to do when building your checklist is to start with your electrical system and familiarize yourself with some of the key components. So we've got our main 12-volt disconnect, our inverter. Ours, it is kind of confusing actually how to turn it on and off. You actually push the button once, then the little menus pop up, and then you can push it again. And ours is actually on, I need it on. And so then you can turn it on and off. You can also do some adjustments of the settings. And here you have your solar charger controller. Really not a whole lot that you need to do with this, but you can monitor how much, you know, solar power you're generating, the state of the batteries, some things like that. But yeah, just familiarize yourself with the specific components that you have in your van and how they work. And don't forget about your fire extinguisher. They are required to be in your van, and the needle should be in the green, which means that it is good to go and ready for use.
If you're like me, I had never seen controls like this before in my whole entire life. And I had no idea. When you pick up your van, they kind of take you through, like they walk you through your van and they kind of quick teach you. But if I'm being honest, I didn't understand how to use each one of these until they failed us. And then I learned, So this is the indicator for the second alternator charging, right? I had no idea how important this was until we had issues with our second alternator. So now, I'm not kidding you, it's kind of given me a little bit of anxiety when I get in the van. The first thing I do is I come and push it and I make sure the state of charge is 100%. So that's how I figured out what this actually was. But anyways, I just wanted to simplify it a little more because that's what would have helped me. Hopefully this helps you understand your RV or van or whatever you have a little better and helps you realize like you really got to learn these controls before you take a big trip. And then I am sure Bob has more electrical stuff to talk about.
All right, guys, it is hot and humid here today. So if we're sweating and gross, it's because it's hot and gross.
Well,
so
we shouldn't have worn black.
yeah, that's probably true. Black was not a good idea.
Right.
But we're going to continue with the video and knock out this checklist. So in here, we're going to continue down here, down low.
So we're moving away from the electrical though.
No, we'll come back to some other components, but I just want to finish down here.
Oh, okay.
So, underneath this seat is a couple of, messy things. So here we have our water pump and a filter. So this is really critical. Your filter in both of our vans, when they were brand new, and we basically ran, the first full tank of water through there, I had to empty these filters that are on the suction side of the pump, and they're full of plastic shavings that were inside the water tank.
What? So, I didn't even know that.
So yes, I just basically twist that off, and knock it out, clean it. But you can inspect it and check it from right here. So it's pretty easy to get to. The other thing, we've had some leaks. If you remember, when we were coming back from Mexico, we had some of these like finger tight connections leaking. I think just vibration over time. So again, nice and easy to check them. You can just kind of reach in, make sure they're nice and tight. Not a problem. But that's the pump. So we have the Truma water heater and air heater. It's all kind of tucked in underneath the seat there. Really nice unit. Not a whole lot you need to do with it, but it's back there. And you just need to make sure you don't have any propane leaks and that your water system is there.
How do they make sure they don't have any propane leaks?
Your propane detector will go off.
Okay.
Which is a bad thing if it does.
So it really doesn't need to be on a checklist though, because they're not checking anything.
Yeah, that's true. But
okay.
you can inspect it though and just know that it's here.
Okay.
Or
fair.
Make sure you know where it's at in your van.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So that's all that's down here.
So you're saying checklist, check your electrics, check wherever all this is for them.
Heating and water system. I mean, and especially those filters. That's probably the biggest thing on the suction side of that pump.
But I also would say, not every trip, but every few trips, go and make sure those things are tight. Because like you said, things rattle off.
That's true. I mean, this thing is like, it's basically a house that's going through an earthquake every time you're driving it. So you need to go in and check those often. So here we have the actual controls for the Truma heating system. So this is where you can turn it on, turn it off, set your temperatures, all that good stuff. Getting familiarized with this is really important. We have the BM Pro, I think they call it RV Master. And this controls everything in the van. So our air conditioner, the water pump. It gives you the indicators for your tanks, both the propane, the water, the electrical, battery levels.
The awning.
Yeah, the awning.
Just everything.
Everything really is controlled through this, which is really nice. We've had some issues with it, but once those got repaired, it's been working just fine. One piece of advice that I would always recommend, whether it's a shakedown trip or just a normal travel day, is just to make sure that everything is closed, latched, secured properly before you leave, because things have a tendency to fly open when you're driving around. And if you forget something, then you could damage it. So, like, for example, the TV is all secured. It's got this little latch. It pulls out. You don't want this to be out dangling around while you're driving, so make sure it's latched, secured, tucked away. Good to go. Let's see. The galley, what do we want to check? As far as your shakedown trip goes, you obviously want to make sure that your water system functions properly, and you've got good water flow. Like I mentioned, your filters are clean so that everything works out nice. Same thing goes with your drains. I recommend like filling up your sink most of the way and then draining it, making sure everything drains properly. You don't have any leaks, all that kind of good stuff. Those are just little things that they're not going to do at the dealership when you pick it up, but definitely something you can do on your first trip. We definitely learned a hard lesson on our very, very first van trip. We made the mistake of going up to about 7,500 feet and our stove wouldn't light. And don't know exactly what happened with that, but as soon as we came back down to a lower elevation, it lit just fine. We didn't have any issues after that. But it was like that first time use. We didn't light it when we were at the dealership. And so on our first trip, we had tons of problems. So anyway, just something to keep in mind. At altitude, your propane system kind of acts funky. So you want to make sure that you check that at like your quote unquote normal elevation.
Or you might be microwaving your eggs for breakfast like we did.
Okay, let's see. Microwave. One little hack we do is we wrap the glass tray in a towel. So that way when we're driving around, you don't hear it rattling because it makes a horrendous noise. Refrigerator. Now, every refrigerator is going to be different. Our refrigerator is very sensitive. On one setting, it barely keeps anything cold. And then you like move it just a little bit and then the entire thing freezes. And it really does matter how much stuff is in there because the airflow does affect how well it works. So that's something you're just going to have to figure out with yours. And
we bought a temperature thing though to help us know what temperature it is.
Yeah. And that actually is something I would recommend buying, is a little temperature gauge for your fridge, especially when it's brand new, so you can kind of dial in that temperature. Just be aware that how much stuff you have in there is going to impact its ability to cool and the ambient temperature. Because here in Arizona, I can guarantee you your refrigerator is running hard because it is hot. Most bathrooms are going to have a vent. When you are driving down the road, you want to make sure that this is closed because otherwise it makes a horrendous noise. Otherwise, it's very simple to operate. You push up and you can turn it on.
Barely
Awesome.
hear it.
Barely hear it. Moving on. So your toilet. You definitely need to put a drop in your toilet. And we just got some more from Walmart because trust me, you need those. We have a cassette toilet. And having that small little container in there. Another little hack is once you get to kind of where you're going, you put a little bit of water, just like your house, in your toilet. That will make sure all those seals work properly. And then that way you don't get any vapors coming out of the toilet because you do not want that in your van.
Nope.
So,
been there, done that.
Yes, a good drop in of a scent that you don't mind hating, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so for checklist, you're just checking toilet.
Yep.
You're just checking... I mean, what else? I don't think there's much else to check for a checklist.
No.
Bathroom checklist?
Nothing in here nothing else for the bathroom checklist. So underneath our bed on the passenger side is where I'll call it our main electrical components are. So that's going to be where our inverter is, our 12 volt fuse box, our 120 volt breaker box. They're all kind of positioned underneath the bed. We've had some issues in the past with that, with things like basically falling down and, getting damaged. But you want to check those components because they are big. They're towards the back of the van, so any like bouncing, whether that's potholes in the road or whatever, they can basically fall off and break. So you want to go in, check those, make sure everything's nice and secure because you don't want those electrical components moving. Every van's made a little bit differently, and some of them, like ours, like the wood components are actually stapled together. Some of them are screwed, some of them are nailed. And what we really learned is that we should have absolutely been checking all that stuff, especially those first few trips when everything's brand new right from the manufacturer. And then on the driver's side, this is where we have our water tank. It's actually positioned over the wheel well. We had some problems with this as well. The connection from the gravity fill for the tank itself, that started leaking. Then we had to have the whole tank replaced. Once we got that replaced, then we had some loose connections on it. So you definitely want to be checking that, making sure that everything is secure and tight. We've got access to the drain valve for the water tank. So knowing where all those components are and checking them is a really good thing. All right, so one key thing to not forget is to make sure that you check your engine's fluids. So you've got your oil, you've got your windshield washer fluid, you've got coolant, and it's kind of dirty in here. But you want to check this, make sure that there's nothing leaking, you don't have any problems, your liquid levels are at the right spot. But it should be just really that simple. Pop the hood, check your levels, call it good. So to recap the checklist, you need to go inspect your water system, your electrical system, your propane system if you have one, any of the major mechanical components like, levelers, air conditioners, fans, refrigerators, all that kind of good stuff. Get to know your equipment. And it's probably going to take a couple of trips to, really figure everything out. It's probably something that you're going to have to, do fairly often, maybe like once a year. Depends on how much you use your van, of course. It's just definitely something that you also want to document. So one of the things that we learned through our warranty work that we had done is pictures and videos are really important. They document both the time and the date, but also like what's really going on, and then you can share that. So like when we were getting pre-approvals, for example, for some of the different warranty work we were having done, I ended up having to take pictures anyways. So definitely recommend when you guys have problems, take those pictures right there in that moment. Then you can share them with the dealership, but then you also have them for your records so that you can kind of remember the problems that you've had or maybe the fixes that you found. Really recommend that documentation piece, keeping notes, keeping a log, because it does become really valuable at the end.
Okay, so the benefits of a shakedown trip. And really, when we say trip, honestly, I'm meaning like probably your first 6 months to a year. Yes, this first one, the first time you take your RV out, like we're saying, take it for a few days, go to an RV park, plug in, get to know your rig. But really, you're gonna have a shakedown trip. And then really that first year, you'll have a few. The benefits are a peace of mind. You're more confident with your rig. It helped us feel more in control of what we're driving around and be less scared. Bottom line is we don't want you to be afraid to buy an RV or let this scare you away. That's why we're doing this video today, is because sometimes we get comments on our videos of like, oh, that's why I wouldn't buy that. Or this happened. So, oh my gosh, this is why I'm never going to buy an RV and all these different things. Or I would never buy a Ram ProMaster because of all the issues we've had with our Ram. But if you look at all the comments on all of our videos, there's comments on Ford, there's comments on Mercedes, there's comments on Ram. Like, that's what I'm saying. There's no perfect rig out there, I promise you. If you go on YouTube right now and type in RV problems, like, you're gonna find so many different channels and so many different rigs with problems. Happily Ever Hanks, I think their latest video, or within the last few weeks, they're taking their rig back, but they've had it for quite a few years. And then also, if you guys watch Selling the Vagabond, I don't know if you've heard of them. They just built this brand new sailboat. It's gorgeous. And they had their first trip was their shakedown trip, and so many issues happened, right? And they built it. They had it custom built. And so it's just the name of the game. Things can happen. I guess what I'm trying to say is things are going to happen. We hope by us sharing this with you gives you more confidence of like, okay, we're not alone. Things happen. What do you do when they happen? And now you have this video to help you with like, okay, let's do a shakedown trip. Let's find some of these issues that might come up and not be worried, not be afraid, be more confident in our rig that we're driving. To do a shakedown trip, it just ensures that everything is safely functioning and should give you confidence and stuff. And so these are just some of the benefits of doing a shakedown trip ever so often as you own your rig.
So now that you're back from your trip, what are you going to do with all the information that you have learned? And the first thing is you want to take care of all of those maintenance items. So if you documented some problems, like taking pictures like I recommended, now you can share that with the dealership. You can work through all those warranty items and, you can go out and, take care of those. Or maybe they're just smaller projects that you can, take care of yourself. You need to basically have some time available once you get back from a trip so that you can, make any necessary repairs. The other thing is you're always going to be learning, what are the new things that you're going to need to make your life better. So whether that's a new hose or a pressure regulator for your water system or some different dishes or, things are breaking and wearing out and you got to replace them. So there's just always so much to learn, and there's always going to be new things that you need or something that will make your life better. I think the last thing to do once you're back is really to update your checklist, because I know that I don't necessarily have like a super formal checklist, but there are always things that I am learning and I need to check. Yeah, and one of the things that I regret is not doing good shakedown trips with each of our vans. and we learned a lot of hard lessons. We got into some awkward spots where it was like things were broken and we didn't know how to use them. And so we didn't really take that time that we needed. But I'll also say, don't stress about the shakedown trips. Just make sure you have enough time so that you can test things out, learn. You don't want to put yourself in a position where it's like, hey, I'm heading out on this adventure of a lifetime and I've never used any of my equipment and never proven that it works. You know, don't be afraid to go out, test it, use it, understand how it works. And, you know, you might run into some problems. That's okay. Just opportunities to learn. Okay.
All right.
Well,
Shakedown trip.
Yeah. Shakedown trip.
Hopefully we taught you something. Hopefully you learned.
Yes. They're very important. Spend the time.
Yeah.
Learn.
Yeah.
We didn't. We
Nope.
we learned a lot of lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
Hopefully sharing with you guys.
Yeah.
You'll be in a much better spot than we are or were.
Yeah. Because we actually haven't had issues with Mr. Lemon in a while.
Yeah.
Knock on something. Do we have wood in here?
That is not entirely true.
What?
We had the door on the gray tank hose holder blow off while we were driving down the highway. And then the connection to the gray tank started leaking. We do need to make some repairs on that. Those are things I think I can do. I don't want to take that in for warranty work.
Yeah, and we don't even know whose fault that was. Do you feel like
it's definitely not our fault.
Oh.
There's no way. There's no way that's
wasn't
our fault.
Okay. Okay, so there was a small little issue, but that's what we're saying. It happens.
Yes.
What do you do?
Yep.
You can cry about it or you can fix it.
You just fix it.
You know what I think I've learned is one of the most important things once you buy a van is make sure where you buy it from is like a reputable place and like they have good customer service.
Yes.
That's what I think we're learning. As long as you have good customer service and you have like the company actually cares about the van,
yes,
you're going to be fine.
And the people who buy the van. It's nice working with people who, you know, are invested in both the people and the equipment.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's some really good ones out there. There's also some not so good ones.
Yeah.
But
I think we're done.
yeah, it's hot.
It's so hot in here.
We need
We're
to get
dying.
the air back on.
Yeah, we need to get
So,
all
all
right.
right.
Get going. So, all right.
Until next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Happy travels.
Happy travels.